Thursday at 6, Dave. You know what time it is.
It's time to get busy.
Time to get busy. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the Hermantown data center. And actually, I'm going to throw in a little something about looks like an outside agency attacking some of our local people. And this is happening quite a bit lately because of the election. They've smelled blood in the water and think they can come after us now with everything they got. We're going to talk about our hourly parking prices are going up by 66%. We're going to talk about the bankruptcy for the development center that's in the village project. We'll talk about some Minnesota legislature. We'll talk about the two governor candidates this week, Kristin Robbins and Lisa Demuth. And we'll talk about some more Minnesota fraud. We'll have some Tin Walz stuff to talk about. He just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
I'll talk about some Minnesota news, some gun laws they're trying to pass through in St. Paul, even though it's unconstitutional. We will talk about some international news, and then we'll have the word of the day, which is a little preview, introspective. So if you're following along and you want to look up that word, we'll talk about it later. All right. Welcome, Dave. Welcome to Thursday night.
Yep. Another beautiful night in Duluth.
Is it? I haven't been outside since I got here at 7 a.m.
It's actually, it said it was 51. Truck said it was 44. So I don't know which one's more correct, but it was definitely not 20 below. So that's a bonus for being late November or mid-November, I should say.
So if we're at 50 degrees, we only have 70 degrees to drop before February.
Yep.
70 degrees.
Yep. Right. But you won't really notice it past, 10 or 15. Then the rest of it just feels, miserably cold. So
once you get that miserable level, it just hangs there.
It doesn't matter.
For a good 3, 4, 7 months, something like that.
Right.
All right, let's jump into Duluth news. We'll talk about this Hermantown data center and the Mortensen development. It's slowing its permit request to allow for more public discourse and consideration. Now, we've talked about this Hermantown data center before. It kind of got thrown into the laps of everybody without much discussion. They had a meeting about it, and I now am a subscriber to the Duluth Monitor, by the way, which is a very good paper, but it talked about this. And it talked about going to the council meeting and talking to these people and saying, hey, well, you know what? We have a lot of non-disclosure agreements being signed in Hermantown. Not a lot of people know what's going on. So can we have a conversation about it? And they said, yeah, we can have a conversation about it. It just has to be put on the agenda. They put it on the agenda, and guess what? It isn't talked about because nobody seconded the motion. So they just kind of circumvented that. And then when the guy from Duluth Monitor went up there and said, hey, why didn't you second it? The guy was basically like, I don't care what you have to say, go away. So it was perfect government agency stuff. So there's protests going on outside the Hermantown data center. There's in Hermantown all the time. They're saying, say no to the data center. And I agree with they should put a pause on it, but at the same time, they should really be thinking about, is the data center a good thing or not? And that's the question that we have to have answered. Not should we have it or shouldn't we have it? We don't have enough information yet. What I think people should be railing about is the process that's been put in place. You can't just do these things, sign non-disclosure agreements where you can't even say who the company is, and then expect people to be okay with you plopping out this massive data center in the area. What do you think, Dave?
If you need to know more absentee noise about it, they're having a protest at Mesabi and Central Entrance at the Copper Top Church on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're going to protest the Hermantown data center, you definitely go in middle of Duluth to protest it. Makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. I mean, you get a lot of information. I mean, and that's what it boils down to is you get in a lot of information. And, I don't know if I'm on the same wavelength as you, but it's like, well, we need more information to know if this is right or not. Their city shouldn't be signing NDAs we need to know more information to decide whether it's good or bad.
Right. And we do have a comment from Owen asking, what is this? So it's a very general question. So I'm not sure if he's asking, what is our podcast or what are we talking about? But we're talking about the Hermantown Data Center that is being proposed to be put into Hermantown just north of Duluth. South of Duluth.
It's north. It's actually, it's in Adolph, which is basically Proctor. So that's on the
northwest. So it's right on the edge of Duluth. And we are talking about them, the city councilors in Hermantown, getting together, signing non-disclosure agreements, even to the point where the non-disclosure agreement says you can't disclose who you're talking to anybody, let alone the company, and then trying to get a data center built in Hermantown. I agree with looking at getting a data center built. What I disagree with is the method being used to try to get this data center in place.
Yeah, and that was word of the day about a month ago, transparency.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
More Duluth news. The Parking Commission has now increased our on-street parking rates from $1.50 to $2.50 an hour, an increase of 66%. So that's a little wild to me that it would increase that much. And this is the Duluth agencies nickel and diming us to death here. So on top of the St. Louis County taxes, the Duluth tax is going up 5%. Now they're also going to increase the on-street parking $2.50. They do 5 cents on grocery bags. It never is enough for these guys. They really want to have all the money that you make. And the sad thing is I've talked to some people that are in the same vein. If you have money, you should be paying it to the government, which is basically flat out communism.
Correct.
Let's see, the Endi, the bankruptcy case. So this is the developer that bought the land for Duluth Central, had the city do a bunch of grading, demolition, and everything, and then they filed bankruptcy when they couldn't make their deadlines. Well, the district court has said no. He noted that the case had been filed in bad faith, so he is not filing future bankruptcy cases for a year. So now they're going to have to probably face the music one way or another, which is a good thing. That whole thing is a cluster, that whole process of trying to build up to Central. And if they'd have just sold it to the charter school like we talked about,
right?
The Edison Charter School tried to buy it, but the Duluth School District wouldn't allow that because you can't have a successful school in a place where you used to have a successful school and make them look bad.
Right.
So another great decision, the red plan.
And Duluth once again didn't do any due diligence to find out who this guy was, what his past was, whether he had the money to even start the whole thing, and turns out he didn't. So,
and this kind of falls in play. So I've got another story coming up here. The former Ordean Building, we talked about this. Yep. They had been proposing to put housing there. It was going to be a whole complex for the whole city, right? And they were going to put 30 some units there. The city of Duluth also sold them the little park area next to the buildings. That's where you had benches and a staircase. It's right there you see where that tree is. You just go down there, but there's a bunch of places to sit there. And then there's a lower section that's all grass. When I used to go running, I would come back, and if it was really hot day, I'd go sit on one of those benches afterwards, kind of cool down before I went back to work. They sold that so that it had been assessed for tax purposes at $270,000, but the city of Duluth sold it to them for $27,500. So basically 10% of the cost. Yeah. Because they said they were going to do all this good stuff. Well, they've now said that, no, this is not going to be for housing. It's going to be a boutique, a short-term boutique, basically a hotel.
Yeah.
But, more costly. They'd called this midterm housing, corporate housing for the longest time. Now it's going to be a boutique hotel. So unless we can get out of this deal or find them or get money out of them, because they said they were going to build housing, that was the whole deal. This is Emily Larson's deal when she was mayor. This is a great example of not knowing how to make a deal. People running the city that don't know how to make contracts that you can tie these people to what they're going to do and hold them accountable.
Yeah.
This is what we talked about with the Lester Park Golf Course. If we do that deal, we need to make assurances that they're actually going to build it and it's not going to cost us money. I don't know that we have the people in place now that can make those deals, but it's a different group of people than it was when this deal came forward. I mean, Emily's not in there, Rogers, and now as a mayor, maybe we'll do a better job.
Well, this Trillium Partners, he's relatively well known around the city, and he's done completed a lot of projects. But
Yeah.
Same problem has happened out in West Duluth, where they built a hotel, and they're above it. They were going to put Section 8 housing. Well, the developers backed out of the Section 8 side of it because it became such a headache and such a problem that it wasn't worth the tax breaks they were going to get from the city. So the city lost, I can't say a ton, but they lost some Section 8 housing because of it.
My understanding is they're suing them, right? Isn't the city suing them to make them do what they said they were going to do?
Well, yeah, but back to your point where they're not, there's nobody involved in the city that really knows how to get these people to do what they're, so you sue them. Well,
right.
That doesn't really solve the problem, because they'll just continue to not do Section 8 housing, which is fine. It's their money. So,
right.
So we need, obviously we're back to the original point. We need better people in city government, which obviously isn't going to happen.
Well,
anytime soon.
Not from this last election. That's for darn sure.
No.
I want to do one more
thing.
I want to show one more thing here, as long as we're talking about Duluth public or Duluth people. If I can bring it up here. This is an ad that's been running on Facebook going against Eric Forsman.
Yep.
Now, I have problems with some things that Eric has done, but for the most part, he does a pretty good job. I think it's a little dicey when it comes to the BlackRock buying Minnesota Power. But I have a feeling that this is not something that I tried to find out information about this group, and you can't find anything about this group. So what it stinks like is outside money from Duluth coming in, pouring in to try to get our candidates who are at least somewhat conservative out of power, so we can have a Minneapolis-based, Minneapolis-like city council, which is so far left that it's just destroying that city.
Yeah.
So I don't like these kind of ads. I think this is not the way we should be doing things here. And this is not, I don't think these people have any business doing it either. I don't think they're part of this city. So I wanted to show this ad and see how stupid and petty it is. He doesn't deserve this. He's just trying to do his job as a Duluth city councilor. And from what they're saying here, it makes it sound pretty bad.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of accountability in what they're saying. So,
yeah, and just like I said, it's probably outside influence. It's not Duluth people doing it.
Right.
All right. Let's see. Let's talk about governor candidates, shall we? I was able to see Kristin Robbins yesterday. Got to meet her, got to hear what she had to say. Now, she's a new candidate for governor from Minnesota. She is current Minnesota House rep from down in the Twin Cities. She won in 2018, and now she's the assistant leader of the House. So this is her website here. We'll have a link to this in our comments, but everything she said was making sense to me. I really like her. And we're going to talk about some other candidates too. I'm not saying I'm fully for Kristin yet. I want to find out more about her, but everything she said sounded really good to me. She wants energy independence. She talked about setting up possible small, like nuclear reactors, portable nuclear reactors to be able to house or to power data centers. When she said that, it was in Hermantown, and the people groaned quite a bit when she said data center, which was funny to me.
Yeah.
She's still pretty green about running, and up here, she knows about running in the Twin Cities in a highly contested area, which is good. And I think her ideas are very good. I didn't hear one thing that I was disagreeing with. But she needs to talk about mining, and we talked about that a little bit when she comes up in this area, especially north of here, because she has to canvass the entire state. So
Right.
when session starts again in January, February, she has to be back in the cities the whole time. She won't be able to campaign up here, but she's going against Tim Walz, and oof, we do need to get rid of Tim Walz.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to be in the nationwide laughing stock. So,
right. She's on the fraud committee, by the way. She's on the fraud committee here in Minnesota now. So she knows what's going on. She lays it out. It's like she's saying there's $2 billion of fraud in Minnesota under Tim Walz. And all of a sudden, he's starting to get somewhat serious about it.
Yeah, that's
he wasn't serious about it. When they had the trifecta, he wouldn't even talk about it. Right.
Same with gun laws. He wouldn't talk about gun laws when trifecta.
Right.
Because he knew that would wipe him off that would end his campaign right there. So.
Right. The other candidate I want to talk about here, and we're not going to talk about Kendall Qualls, but I'm going to see him on Saturday, I believe. We'll talk about him next week. And I've heard him speak before. I really like him. Lisa Demuth, the current co-lead of the Minnesota House, has joined in, and she already has a running mate.
Yeah.
So they already criticized Walz too, and I think that's going to be the theme for all the candidates. Spending the $18 billion surplus we had, and then increasing our budget by $10 billion on top of that, and now still being $7 billion in debt. That's a huge swing. She hammered him on the record for fraud under his leadership, with recent scandals including Feeding Our Future and the state's federally funded housing stabilization program. So I know Lisa a little bit. I've talked to her. I really like Lisa too. So another really good quality candidate. My big hope is that we get a candidate that can beat Tim Walz, because as goofy as he is, as silly as he is how the nation thinks of him, there's people in Minnesota that just will not vote other than Democrat. And they've got to wake up and see what he's been doing to the state. Not only the fraud, the education in the state has gone way downhill. And the interesting thing was at the thing for Kristin, a guy spoke up and he said he was a para at the schools. And when he went in, he's got 3 girls. He went in and they gave him a chart, XY chart. And they're going to give it to kids and they're going to say, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling more male? Or are you feeling more female, more masculine or feminine? And then you're going to put yourself on a chart. And I don't know what that means when you do that, but why are they doing that at all? It said it could be as young as kindergartners getting this done.
It's ridiculous.
So it's a grooming thing. It's a mental grooming thing that they're trying to do. I don't know what happens to teachers who don't want to do it, because now with the new legislation, it's 1 every 10 years change. It sounds like they're doing a lot more of this stuff. So we talked to her about that. She was going to look into it and find out more.
Yeah, and with the teachers union, you go against the union, they'll get rid of you too. So.
Oh yeah. We have more fraud in Minnesota. There was a woman who exposed a massive Medicaid fraud scheme. So we are becoming known as the fraud capital of the United States. We're taking over, Illinois. So here it is, Minnesota, Medicaid's collapse into waste and fraud hit home, exposing how career politicians built a system they can no longer control. So remember, they put a lot of our Feeding Our Future stuff in the hands of the Department of Education. And then they didn't do any oversight. And we've talked about it before on the show about why aren't we seeing more politicians or upper level government people being tried? We're seeing the low level street workers on it. And what it was explained to me, or how I've heard it, is although they did a bad job and they did poor oversight or no oversight at all, they haven't tied any of the leaders to actual fraud, to receiving money. So unless they can tie those together, they can't do anything other than the governor can fire them or put them in a different position. Obviously, Walz is not doing that.
No, because that's the problem. The people that are administering the funds know that there's a problem, but they didn't create the laws.
Right.
So the Democrats that created the laws intentionally or incompetently left loopholes in there so that fraud could happen.
Right.
And that's what we have to get rid of, those people, So,
Well,
the people funding it were just doing what they're told, basically. So,
well, this is the same thing with this Family Leave Act coming up starting January 1st, where we're all, as small employers, nobody's excluded from this. So if you have one employee, you're still funding it. If you're a daycare center, if you're a nursing home, you're still funding it. But the study said that you needed, I think, a 1.2% tax to be able to fund this thing, but they went in with a 0.88% tax. So you're already walking into this thing next year underfunded, which is what they do. They pass a law, and the consequence doesn't hit until a couple of years later. This is Obamacare, the same thing.
Yep.
It's a time bomb. It's so that it goes into effect, and then people get used to it, and then taking it away from people once they get used to it is almost impossible. And that's why, by design, if they felt the pain right away, that would be the time to take it out. But if you got it going for a couple of years, well, then at that point, you're never going to defund it ever, unless there's some real hard action done.
Right. And then hopefully Trump does that with Obamacare.
Right. So what they're trying to do, what I've talked to some of the reps to do, is if they can't get rid of it, they're going to do things like, we're going to not have every employer have to do it and just do, a certain number of points, that you need to have 100 employees before you have to kick in, or something like that. It's going to devastate small businesses. It really is, because you're going to basically take any trained person and give them a large amount of time off, where you're paying that person and another person, doubling your wage out. And a lot of people run businesses on the razor's edge for profit margins.
Well, especially in Minnesota, because they don't like businesses. So they consider a small business their little lunchbox. So they're going to attack them, and, because the small businesses can't really just change their prices to pay for this, the theft from the government, where the large ones, they just pass it on.
Yep. And then everything goes up, and we all pay more for that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to skip the Omar thing. I've had enough of that woman for a while. We'll go on to...
Everybody wants her to leave. We already know that.
Well, the thing, I'll post the link, but it was basically, she's like, I'm an adult. I can live anywhere. I don't have to live here. Well, go. Yeah. Please, just go.
Please leave.
You're helping us a lot. In fact, I don't even care if you go. Just get out of the government.
Right. That's where she does her damage. So.
Right. Tim Walz, the latest report from the Minnesota Legislative Auditor shows financial noncompliance from the governor's office. So there were 12 issues they found. And Walz's office has explained that of the 12, 11 have been resolved, and the remaining one was partially resolved. So letting fraud run rampant, trying to, remember the House split on the vote for having an independent auditor for this kind of thing. None of the Democrats voted it, including Duluth News Tribune supported candidates Pete Johnson and Leish Kozlowski.
Yep.
Therefore, we couldn't have an independent auditor. What they're trying to hide, I don't know. But this audit has showed that there is at least 12 issues of just not knowing how to do your job. And that's Walz right there in a nutshell.
Right. Yeah. If you can't handle a small office like that, how can you handle the whole state?
Right.
Your incompetence is just right there for everybody to see. So.
And this is Lisa Demuth. We talked about her earlier. She's running for governor. A quote from her: "After years of allowing fraud to run rampant in state agencies, we're now seeing that the lack of internal controls and accountability measures extend even to the governor's office. Here in Minnesota, accountability starts at the top. It's time for the governor to take a hard look at the financial practices within his own office and take responsibility for cleaning up the noncompliance, both in his office and across all his agencies." So we'll see. Hopefully that will happen.
It won't. But Yeah, I mean, I was watching the local news, and they didn't say a word about this until he responded. You know, they didn't say anything until he responded, and then when
Right.
when he was able to respond, then all of a sudden it was a story to them. So
Right.
he could cover his tracks properly. And that's basically the way it made it sound as, oh, it was nothing. It's nothing to even consider. So.
Well, you'll find in Minnesota and Duluth especially, they're very good about not reporting a lot of news.
Right.
Anything that's bad, they don't report. Most people don't know anything that Leash has proposed in her legislation for the east end of Duluth. They're completely oblivious to it, and that's by design. The people running for Duluth City Council, I ask them questions. They won't answer the questions. They just keep quiet. They don't want to talk, because the more that people find out, the worse they find out it is. So they just don't do it. And it works, because just like when Tim Walz ran last time and he didn't actually do any debates or go out and campaign, and he won anyway, that's the same thing. So that's hopefully not going to work this time. But you can tell that Tim is on the re-election campaign because he issued an executive order to create a Minnesota food pantry network for veterans. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's a great thing. But I thought we had a no kings thing going on where you couldn't do these executive orders, and we were against all this.
Right.
And the other thing is, welcome to the party finally realizes that veterans probably need some help with the food pantries. So he's going in for re-election. He's trying to do all this stuff beforehand. And I don't know where he's getting the money to do this. That will be interesting to find out. But apparently his bookkeeping is so shoddy that he probably thinks he just has the money.
Yeah, I mean, he's got $1 million sitting in his campaign fund, but who knows where that actually came from. So,
yeah. He is still, another story is Walz keeps pushing for special session on gun violence. So here's a quote from him. The public health crisis we have around firearms is simply unacceptable. It's not the firearms. It's the people wielding the firearms. Yeah. You're going after the wrong thing. So we asked the governor why he doesn't call a special session without the pre-agreement to at least force a debate over the debate. Well, the debate won't happen, he responded. The floor would be controlled by Republicans who have made it clear they don't want to have this discussion. So in true Tim Walz fashion, he won't have the conversation if it means a fight. He just wants to slam dunk everything agreed to beforehand so he can take credit for it. If it's even going to make him look somewhat bad, he will not do it. That's right. His MO. He's been following it, and unfortunately very effectively on a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and he had the trifecta and didn't say a word about guns.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Keep things quiet so they get their other stuff through.
Because they know that Minnesotans do not want this 100% gun control from the government. So he's not going to do it because that would cause him to lose the election. So he's trying to spin it to blame the Republicans.
Right.
Is what what it really boils down to.
Just like the shutdown, they were trying to spin it.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to say again.
And that's why that's why we don't hear a word about the Trump ballroom, because it'll make him look bad. It'll make Walz look bad, like an idiot.
I don't know why he would look bad because of $200 million to build a ballroom that's privately funded versus $760 some million to renovate an existing house place where people spend 3 to 5 months a year.
Right.
A house office.
Using tax money.
Yeah, public money, right.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about just kind of fits into the violent left Tim Walz thing, and I'll explain why in a second. Fetterman, is he a senator? I think he's a senator, right?
Yeah.
He said that Democrats are rudderless. Well, I don't want to go through the whole line, but it was interesting. If you go down into this article, what he's saying is it's interesting between the two parties because he takes venom from both sides because he's a Democrat. He gets venom from the right, and because he speaks against the Democrats, he gets venom from the left. But what he said is, of the two, the Republicans will call him names, such vile names he doesn't want to say it.
Yeah.
But the Democrats just want him dead. They say, too bad the stroke didn't work. Have another stroke. Too bad, the doctors did the wrong thing. And that's what my experience has been too. The Republicans or the conservatives that I know will attack you on your ideas.
Yeah.
The Democrats will attack you on your person. They will make it very personal coming after you. And the reason I say this is because I've seen people that are very nice people that I know wouldn't be violent, wouldn't be, basically don't harm anybody, with just complete anger in their eyes and telling me things like they really want to cause harm to some people just because they're Republican. And you ask them why, and they can't back it up with facts. So I got to agree with John here. He's right. It's kind of scary. And we see that with the Turning Point people here in Duluth getting, threats again this year, a couple threats already this year. Just doesn't stop.
They're doing it massively in California. Of the TPUSA are getting attacked and tables flipped constantly out in California. So,
right.
It's pretty bad how violent the left has become.
Right. We'll move on to Minnesota news. And speaking of violence, a Minneapolis city councilor was carjacked. The best part about this story is, to me, he was just reelected, even though his foundation he started was part of the Feeding Our Future fraud, and still he got reelected.
Right.
And it was two juveniles. They'll never say what any description of them, so you just know they're youths. I think that's how they call them in here.
Yeah.
And even this happens to him, and he's not acknowledging its problem in Minneapolis. He's not acknowledging the problem of carjacking and the violence down there, and just letting them go. And I'm guessing these two kids got let go that day.
No, I seen in another interview where he was really pushing for punishment for these kids.
He was, but isn't that in Bloody Mary Moriarty's district?
Yeah. So nothing will happen, but it's interesting that, he's not going to push for something that he wants. He was never going to push for consequences until it happened to him.
It happened to him. Right.
It happened.
That's
then
what a
now
lot of people are like.
Yeah. Now there needs to be consequences.
Right.
They should, he should get special. He needs to get special license plates so kids know, hey, he's a government official. You don't get to carjack him.
It's like old communism. Everybody's equal, but some people are more equal than others.
Right.
St. Paul has adopted a comprehensive gun violence prevention ordinance on Wednesday. The ordinance bans assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines. It was passed unanimously by the city council. This will not stand. It's unconstitutional. It's been proven over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think it says it does not take effect until the state preemptive law is lifted. So it's a nothing law right now. But even if it does pass, I think the next article is the Gun Owners Caucus is suing them for passing this. It is clearly an unconstitutional law. They do this in California. They do it in South. The problem is that they just change the wording again, and then they put it in place, and it takes a long time to get it through until it's done. So, and then they'll just do it again. They just lawfare you to the point where it just ground you down. They'll try to bankrupt these guys, the Minnesota Gun Owner Caucus. It's just the ongoing fight. It's the thing that maybe we should have a moratorium on these kind of laws for 10 years, and maybe we could get some other stuff done.
Right.
I was saying the same thing about the abortion law. Moratorium, 10 years. Just figure it out. Gives you a lot of time to think about it before you start just changing things willy-nilly based on one event or another.
And that's one of the problems with the government is in what Trump was trying to stop was the militarization of it. Because they have endless money. They want to sue. Right. They want to pass these gun laws. So and put their enemies, anyone who disagrees, just put them into bankruptcy.
Yep.
So until they can't fight anymore, where the government, they just tax you more. They'll raise your parking rates, whatever they want to pay for whatever they want.
Right.
And, so then that's how they stop people from suing them.
The process is the punishment.
Yep.
So hopefully that gets thrown out, and then they can do it with extreme prejudice and maybe put it so they can't do another one of these for at least 5 years. Give us some relief. Let's start accomplishing some other things, but it's constant grind about the same 3 or 4 subjects over and over again. I've said the same thing about this trans issue. The trans thing just comes up, and it just seems like, what's your opinion on trans people? I don't really think about them. I don't really care. But you have to talk about them all the time because they're just always in your face and trying to take over schools and stuff like that. Stay away from schools. You know what? Be a trans person. If you're going to be a trans person, you're an adult. Go on. I don't care. Stick to your burlesque shows and all the other crap you used to do all of my life, and stay out of the schools and try. And I won't go in and bring in, whatever I'd bring into a school that you wouldn't like. Deer hunting. I'm not going to talk about deer hunting in the schools. It's not the place for it. Not going to do, church services in the schools. That's where you do this in church. The school is for learning how to read, write, do your math, and get out. So I think it's just to keep us distracted while they push other garbage in play and have people at each other's throats so they can win elections. Basically, that's what it is.
Yep, that's the truth.
All right. Let's go on to national news. Be happier. You ready?
Well, normally Walz is our laugh track because he's so stupid. So.
Yeah, but we're not laughing because it's funny.
Right.
We're laughing because it's sad. The government is reopened. Finally, and at last, I have noticed no change myself because I'm not a federal employee. I don't rely on federal funds or resources. Not to say it doesn't affect a lot of people. I'm just saying it isn't impacting me personally. I'm glad the people that are federal employees are going to start getting paid again because it would have been a real dicey Christmas time if this had gone on much longer. And why the funniest part is, so you got these Democrats that voted with the Republicans. There was like 8 of them that total.
Yeah.
And the people screaming about the government being shut down and calling Trump a fascist because, of course, he controls all that. Now they're screaming at these guys for opening the government. And I can't figure out how you please some of these people.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. And then both of the Duluth representatives in the state, Klosowski and Johnson, both of them were blaming the Republicans for the shutdown, even though if you look at the votes, it was the Democrats that wouldn't, vote yes for the thing. Klobuchar and Smith, our state senators, they voted no, yet they were blaming the Republicans. So
it's mind-numbing sometimes, the politicians.
And the problem is they don't see anything wrong with it. They don't see any thought processes as wrong in their arguments. So
no, it makes perfect sense to them.
Right.
That should be scary too. So I want to talk about the funny thing I want to talk about. Oh, and Dave left us for now. So I will just talk about this by myself until he comes back. Jasmine Crockett now wants to eliminate Dominion voting machines. So I've been predicting this, and we're going to bring Dave back in. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened on that one.
We're talking about Jasmine Crockett wanting to eliminate Dominion voting machines. We talked about this.
Yeah.
So we wanted to get rid of Dominion voting machines for a long time. We want to go to paper ballots with watermarks, things that can be tracked easily. Yeah, you don't need to show Jasmine. We already know what she thinks.
Yeah.
But this is great because now a conservative has bought Dominion So where we were being told for a long time, you can't screw the voting machine. You can't change it. You can't, they're uncorruptible, basically. Now that a conservative has it, they're a danger and we have to eliminate them. Well, you know what? I agree with Jasmine. Crockett. It happened. Write this day down, November 13th, 2025. I actually agree with what Jasmine Crockett had to say. Let's get rid of them. Let's go to paper ballots.
Yeah, but we were talking about that 100%. That soon as the conservative bought Dominion, everyone on the Democrat side was going to change their opinion. Yep. Now it's bad, and she proved it. She was the first one to lead the stupid chart, trying to win the stupid Democrat war.
Yeah, she edged up. She's a little smarter now.
Yep.
Good girl. All right. Another story I found was 600 illegal immigrants were awarded $112 million. And I'm going to just post this. I didn't really read it too much. It's in New Jersey, and the line of it says, the jury confirmed what we have argued all along. This is the guy voting, or their lawyer. The Suffolk County's actions trampled the basic due process rights guaranteed under the 14th Amendment. Now, we are talking about illegal aliens. I don't know how the 14th Amendment applies to them from the Constitution, because they are not citizens of this country. And this really needs to get sussed out. Just because you're here doesn't necessarily mean you have all the protections of our Constitution. Not like you can do something bad to them, but these are protections put in place for us. It's our country.
And Bill Clinton, when he was president, made it very clear that due process is not for illegal aliens. That was never meant for them. And Clinton, a Democrat, said that very specifically. I'll have to track down the quote so we can reference it it seems like every week we have to do it now.
Well, Clinton is far right, isn't he? Is it that Bill Clinton?
Yeah, that Bill Clinton, the far right. I don't even know what you call him, antagonist.
I heard that Trump is going to name the ballroom the Monica Lewinsky Ballroom. I think that would be pretty funny.
Yep, that would be very good.
Let's see. Texas cements business-friendly reputation after locking in tax bans. So here are 3 measures. They've got a capital gains tax ban. So if you have capital gains, which means that you haven't realized the gains on your investment yet. You put in $100. Now, theoretically, whatever it is worth $200, but you haven't taken that cash out. Once you take the cash out, then that's the gain on that. And that's what capital gains are. So they're taking away that tax. Securities transaction tax ban bars the state from imposing taxes on financial trades or payroll transactions, effectively ruling out a Wall Street tax on buying or selling stocks. That's going to be good. And the big one, the estate and inheritance tax ban. So prohibits any future taxation on wealth transfers after death, a safeguard for business owners and families looking to pass assets to heirs.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of states have this minimum amount. So up to a certain amount, you won't have to pay tax, and above that you do. But when you're talking about a farm, you're talking about a lot of money. Right. And almost any farm is going to fall into that tax base, and they're going to just take it away. So you work your life, you pay taxes on that. When you buy things, you pay taxes on that. And when you pass away and you try to give that to your kids, they also have to pay taxes on that. It's crazy. It's triple taxation.
Yeah, in Minnesota, it's almost, I heard, up to 55%. So over half of your business or your appreciation is gone to the government. For what reason?
Right.
So when you're taxing people to death like that, I kept thinking about, well, how many businesses in Minnesota lost because they just want to overtax the daylights out of people, and that's what the next list. These are almost Fortune 500 companies. These are large companies at the time that just left.
Yeah, we got Securian Financial Group, Fastenal, Patterson Companies, Joanne Fabrics. They announced closure of all locations. And Mervyn's.
Yeah, I think Mervyn's was like a clothing store, like a fabric store type.
So here's the funny thing. So I'm having a conversation with somebody that I'm not mentioning who it is. And they say, well, millionaires should have to pay all their money to taxes. I said, why? Well, they have the money, so they should give it up for taxes. My argument was, when I said to her was, I'm a citizen, you're a citizen. I'm worth $1 million, you're worth $100,000. We have the same rights and we have the same protections and we pay, and everything is paid out the same. What's my benefit as a citizen to be paying 20 times more than you in taxes? And I think her idea is that millionaires don't pay taxes at all, right. Which if you look at it certain ways, maybe they don't pay taxes because they're taking investment risks and they're getting benefits from the government for taking those risks. And if you don't like that, well, Minnesota's been Democrat ruled for a long, long time. So if you don't like those rules, maybe you shouldn't vote for Democrats.
Right.
But the idea of, well, you have the money, so you should pay it, is envious and backwards. They don't look at what is being paid for. They just look at you having money. You should pay it in. And it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous way to look at things. The funniest part, though, because we're in the funny area, is this person still complains about the high rate of taxes. So,
yeah. Well, think about, we did the story last week about the tabs for your car. So the more expensive your car was, the higher your tab fees are to run that car. Well, so why does your $100,000 Suburban wreck the street more than your, $200,000 Bentley?
Right.
But your Bentley is $200,000, so you're going to be paying more. So that's a socialism tax right there, because you have more money invested in the car.
If you really want to do it like that, you do it on weight. And you know what the problem is? Your battery-powered cars that they have right now are really, really heavy. So they're going to be paying a lot more taxes on the tabs. They don't want that.
Right. That's why they're trying to figure out a way to monitor everything you do in your car so they can charge you by the mile.
Right. Yeah, which is tracking you essentially, which is a Fourth Amendment violation. I think it's fourth, pretty sure. Right to privacy. All right, we'll go on to the last national news item. Seattle new socialist mayor. I thought the mayor for New York was going to be bad, and the one that we almost had in Minneapolis is bad. This woman, I guess she's even worse.
Yeah.
She won't allow private grocery stores to close. She'll take them over as part of the city. I would also like to build a wall around Seattle for anybody who voted for her and make them eat their own dog food for this as well. So what's going to happen is they're going to implement these plans. They're going to run out of money really quick. They're going to start really cranking up the taxes in the area. People will leave or just not pay them, and it'll fall apart. So it may not happen right away. You may see a euphoria for the next year or two while they implement these policies and everybody thinks it's great. 5 years down the road, I predict it will not be even close to what they think it is at this point. I think it's going to be a disaster.
Right. So what does this lady from Seattle and the new New York Mayor Mandani, what do these two have in common?
They're both women?
Well, yeah, that they were both born and raised by rich parents, and neither of them have ever had a real job. So they were born and raised in a wealthy thing where money just kind of showed up, and they never had a real job where they have to, make payroll or figure out how it's just magically money appears magically.
Right.
And so now Seattle and New Yorkers destined for their own little self-inflicted death.
I've heard when people say, well, money isn't that important to me. You've never been poor.
Right.
I mean, really poor. I mean, when we were growing up, we were not poor, and we weren't well off either. But poor people, it's a drive to have money because you don't want to starve. And you saw it when people lived through the Great Depression, where people were abject poverty. Those are the people that gained a lot of weight, or there's a lot of people that gained a lot of weight when they got older because they always ate all the time because they never wanted to be the point where they were going to starve to death again. It was really, a big impact on their mentality. All right. Well, let's we'll put a pin in that and come back to it in a couple of years and see how it did.
Yeah.
International news. I found this a great story. There's going to be a climate summit in Brazil, so they've mowed down a number of trees to build a highway out to it, taking down a bunch of
ClimateDepot.com executive editor Mark.
So yeah, we'll post the link here, but Trump has been pointing this out on Truth Social, and it's not unlike the Olympics they did. Remember, this is Brazil; they're all climate friendly and everything. They built stadiums out in the middle of nowhere, built the roads to them, and after the Olympics were over, they just went back to rot. I mean, they're still there. Nobody's using them. They spent so much money,
right? And
it's crazy. It's just crazy. These are the people that are saying, climate change. They're there for a climate summit. I actually saw a thing just to talk about climate a little bit. You remember watching Idiocracy, and they put Ferrando on the plants, and it was because that's what plants need, right?
Yep, that's the body
good. I saw a
good.
thing that said carbon. It's what plants crave. They grow with carbon. So
yeah. Because I thought that article had the picture of it, building a highway. You could see it right through the rainforest.
Yeah, just taking down trees.
Just taking out, just clear cutting. It's like.
Well, it reminds me when they clear cut a forest to put up a solar winds or a solar farm.
Right. Well, like when the WEF goes to Davos. Well, they can't get their private jets close enough, so they take a helicopter from the private airport to the private facilities resort that they're in.
Yeah,
and they're to talk about carbon and environmental problems. So,
how we have to participate more and pay more for carbon tax, because only a really intelligent people figure that giving more money to the government will fix climate change.
Yeah.
I got an article
think the
here.
Government is going to fix anything.
No,
they only create problems so they can fix them or pretend to fix them so they can get reelected.
No, they solve them. They don't fix it. They solve it.
Yeah, they pretend to solve it. Yeah,
it may not be a good solution, but they come up with a solution.
Right.
The UN wants to clamp down on free speech online. I will post this link in here. I just don't know why the UN would have any right to say anything about our free speech. We're the only ones keeping it alive here in United States, even though as bad as it has been, especially when Biden wanted to do the Ministry of Truth Council.
Yeah.
But he just says, there's too many false narratives. Well, who is the one that decides what the truth is? You put it all out there, let people decide. It's not for you to curate the message of what is true and what is not. And we've seen over and over again where that's not true. So, for example, here's a real benign example. When I was growing up, you can't have butter, you should have margarine. It's better for you.
Yeah.
Well, now margarine's not good for you. Butter is better. Eggs. I've gone through like 8 iterations of eggs are bad, eggs are good, eggs are bad, eggs are good. They're never right. It just keeps changing. We're going into global cooling. Yada, yada, yada. 20 years later, we're going to global warming. 20 years later, it's climate change, right?
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about the Bank of International Settlements. Do you know anything about this?
No, I didn't hear anything about that one.
I'm going to put us a link to it so people can learn more about it. And I'm just going to put a nugget in their ear to look up what the Bank of International Settlements is. So they have sovereign.
The BIS is the Bank of International.
You could play this if you want. Just pull up the volume and play it for you. You muted it.
And the New York Fed and the Fed are both shareholders. They became shareholders in 1994.
In one sentence, what's the purpose of the Bank of International Settlements?
Okay, so there are two things you need to know about the Bank of International Settlements.
I'm not sure my brain's big enough for this, but keep going.
It is. It has sovereign immunity.
What does that mean?
It's above the law.
It's its own country.
Right. It's its own country. It has its own police force. And essentially, other than one of its staff being in a car accident or, minor things, no one has the legal authority to move against it. Number two, it can move money and hold it on its balance sheet and manage money secretly. If I want to steal $21 trillion from the U.S. government and park it on the balance sheet of the BIS, it can move it anywhere in the world and it can keep it on its balance sheet secretly.
First of all, where does its power? Like, who empowered it to have sovereign immunity and the right?
It was created after World War I, and it was created in theory to manage the reparations of the German government. But if you read the real history, it was because the Bank of England and the central bankers wanted an entity that had sovereign immunity. If you look at...
There you go.
Yeah.
It's something to look into. And I think a lot of bad stuff came out of World War I. This is where, about the time you got the income tax, you got the Fed. It really, Real World War was a lot bigger than I knew. When I was growing up, I thought World War II was the big war. I think World War I, after the aftermath of that, affected a lot of things that happened throughout history now. So this is something I just found out. I thought it was interesting. Take a look at that link and then find out more if you're interested.
Yeah.
The last thing for international news is a woman reporter in the BBC was reprimanded for giving a facial expression. So she was doing the news. You don't need to pop this one up. I'll put the link down here. She was talking about a news story, and it said pregnant people.
Oh yeah.
And she said pregnant people, women, and then she went on, and she got a bunch of complaints filed against her because of that. Can't make it up.
No, it's somebody. You look back, these people 50 years ago go, well, yeah, we better start working on stupid stuff like this. 50 years ago, we never even considered this stuff about,
right.
And, this is, do we have nothing to complain about that this is what we're going to complain about?
Apparently so. Thing that if you want to be driven mad, the USAID, us, fund the BBC partially.
Right.
That should stop. That's not in our best interest. Okay, let's move on to health and fitness. Kind of getting a really short show today. Again, it's our opinion that you should work your mind, work your body, try to go out and improve yourself, try to increase your physical fitness. That's always good for your mental attitude. Weightlifting is good with cardio. If you can do it, if you can't, do what you can.
Yeah,
this link I have here is why I don't want universal health care. So it's kind of off topic for health and fitness. But when we had universal health care being shoved down our throats, my argument was, I don't want to care about your fitness. You can do what you want. I don't want to care about it. So go ahead and play this if it's going to play. So this is a video of a woman who shows her daily diet just for one day. And it is abhorrent. So you take it off, Dave. It's not going to play. But what it comes down to is
what I ate today as a baddie. Good morning, baddies.
Yeah, it's bad. So you're going to see a lot of stuff, and it's almost revolting to listen to it. It's the sounds it makes. So I'm going to take that off.
I think that's what Obamacare was about, was to basically force individuals to tell on your neighbor, to force your neighbor to get thin. Because now I'm paying for your health care. Right. Therefore, I should care about what you do. Therefore, I should say something to you if you're not doing something correctly.
Which is the insidious thing. And before this, if you wanted to eat Big Macs every day, 5 times a day. Fine, I don't care. If you want to be 600 pounds, go do it. Now you're making me care about it because I have to pay for you and your health care. And that's just not the way it should work. No. I don't want to care about your health care. I want you to do what you want. That's the crazy thing about living here. You should be able to do what you want, but I shouldn't have to pay for you to be able to do what you want.
Correct.
So if you want to be grossed out, go ahead and click on that link when I post it in the chat. It's not good. It's not good. All right, we'll end it here with the word of the day, introspective. It's an adjective, inspecting within, thinking inwardly, capable of or exercising introspection, self-conscious. Okay, Dave, why did you put this as our word for the day?
Well, when I talk to people and, about our political issues and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that, I noticed that they're not actually, they're just kind of, well, it's this way because I said it was this way, and this is what I believe. But when you try to talk to them about facts or stuff like that, they can't come up with facts to, well, why do you think that way? Well, they don't have an answer for that.
It's how they feel.
It's how they feel. It's not a fact-based belief system. And so I thought that word was kind of appropriate considering what I've been hearing lately through through my conversations is, well, my beliefs are based on something, introspective. Well, why don't, fine, you want to think that way. Yeah, you're an American. You can think any way you want. But why? Introspective.
I think it's a good idea if people, no matter what, always reassess what they're thinking about something. If you're seeing some people disagreeing with it, at least think about why they're disagreeing with it and look back and say, does it make sense? You might reorganize everything back to the same thing and you're just going to be back to, I think it makes sense. Sometimes you go, okay, I kind of get that. Maybe, okay. Now I can, if you can't see both sides of a story, you're not looking at it hard enough. And if you can't argue the other side's point, then you don't know it well enough and you need to learn it. That's how you grow, and that's how you understand what you're doing is right or wrong. Maybe not right, wrong, but it's right to you, right?
Yeah, and then that's what I thought. This is kind of a good word based on my conversations. Was, look at everything. Do some research, think about it, and and have your own belief systems, which is fine, but base it on something. You're not just well. That's what the View said.
Right. No, tell you what, don't base anything because that's what the View said. All right.
Right. Just remember, they're not a news story. They don't present facts. They're
like your crazy aunt at Thanksgiving. You just nod. And
Yeah.
All right.
Had like 5 or 6 martinis.
All right, let's wrap it up here. We're going to do a like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe if you like what it is here. Please give us comments. We'd like to hear from you and give us topics you might want us to talk about and investigate before the show. You just went over my little graphics, Dave.
I did?
Yeah.
Well, you said like and subscribe. Oh, there. You put a new one up
coming
there.
Up. I'm changing things, Dave. I'm keeping it fresh.
Well, at least tell me about it every now and then. So,
what fun is that?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody watching. It was a lot of fun. Hang loose, and we will be back here next week at 6 o'clock on Thursday. Until then, I'm Sean.
I'm Dave.
And thank you for joining. See you next week.